Humans. The most bloodthirsty, ruthless, suicidal, reckless, unpredictable force of destruction the galaxy has ever fucking seen. A human is the last goddamn thing you want coming at you in a war. You will lose. Their power is a terrifying sight to behold. They don't give a fuck about collateral damage or civilian causalities or rules of engagement. All humans know how to do is fuck, fight, and get results for their side at any cost. Not by being smarter, stronger, or more advanced than their enemy, but by fighting harder and meaner than you can even imagine. That horrifying ability, that stomach-churning talent, is why the Gamilon race needs the humans now more than ever. Zephyr, an aging Gamilon historian, switches on the dusty hologram projector in his dimly lit classroom. As the machine sputters to life, he turns to face the small group of young Gamilon students sitting attentively before him. Today we will discuss a pivotal moment in our history, Zephyr begins, his voice low and gravelly, the Great Gamilon Corv War. The hologram flickers, displaying scenes of the bitter conflict that had engulfed their civilization centuries ago. Gamilon warships engage in fierce battles with the insectoid Corv vessels, their advanced technology clashing against the sheer numbers of the enemy. Zephyr explains how the war had dragged on for decades, pushing the Gamilons to the brink of defeat despite their superior weaponry. The students lean forward, their blue skin illuminated by the holographic glow, as Zephyr recounts the desperate decision made by Emperor Zardoz and the Gamilon High Council. They turned to an unlikely ally, he says, his voice tinged with a mix of reverence and unease. The humans, murmurs ripple through the classroom. The humans, a species known for their unpredictability and violent tendencies, had been largely ignored by the Gamilons, who considered them primitive and beneath their notice. Zephyr's eyes narrow as he describes the arrival of Ambassador Zark on Earth and his meeting with the gruff, human military officer, General Matthew Wilson. The hologram shifts to display the two figures, Zark's elegant blue form, a stark contrast to Wilson's battle-worn human features. As Zephyr details the intelligence shared by Zark, revealing the imminent threat posed by the Corvs to both Gamilon and Earth, the students' expressions grow more somber. They begin to understand the gravity of the situation that had led their proud ancestors to seek aid from such an enigmatic and potentially dangerous race. The historian pauses, letting the weight of the moment sink in. The decision made by General Wilson and the United Earth Council would change the course of the war, Zephyr says, his voice barely above a whisper. It would determine the fate of not only the Gamilons, but the entire galaxy. The students sit in rapt attention, their hearts pounding as they realize the immense stakes at play. They know that the humans' involvement could either lead to a triumphant victory or unleash a force of chaos upon the universe, the likes of which had never been seen before. The fate of their civilization, and perhaps the galaxy itself, hung in the balance, and it all rested on the shoulders of the unpredictable humans. Herr Sir. Zephyr continues his recounting of the pivotal human intervention in the Gamilon Corv War, now focusing on the preparation and deployment of the human forces. General Wilson carefully selected the members of his expeditionary team, each chosen for their unique skills and expertise, the historian explains, his voice steady and measured. Among the chosen few was Dr. Elias Nakamura, a brilliant xenobiologist who had dedicated his life to studying the Corvs from afar. Dr. Nakamura's knowledge of the enemy's hive mind intelligence would prove invaluable in the coming battles, Zephyr notes, as the hologram displays an image of the scientist, his features etched with determination. Alongside Nakamura, General Wilson appointed Captain Alexander Alex Novak, a battle-hardened Special Forces operative, to command the ground troops. Novak's experience in unconventional warfare made him the perfect choice to lead the human soldiers against the Corv swarms, Zephyr says, as the hologram shifts to show the captain's rugged, scarred face. The task of adapting human technology to counter the Corv's unique capabilities fell to Lieutenant Commander Ethan Park, a prodigious engineer whose innovations had already revolutionized Earth's military. Park's genius would be put to the test as he worked to create weapons and defenses capable of withstanding the Corv's relentless assaults. The historian explains, the hologram now displaying schematics of advanced weaponry. As the human team prepared for their mission, tensions began to simmer between the Earthlings and their Gamilon allies. Many Gamilon officers, including the proud Commander Zora, resented the need for human assistance, viewing the Earthlings as primitive upstarts unworthy of fighting alongside their advanced forces, Zephyr recounts, his brow furrowed. The hologram flickers, revealing a heated exchange between General Wilson and Commander Zora, their faces inches apart as they argue. "I don't need your help, human," Zora spits, her blue skin flushed with anger. "My people have been fighting the Corvs for decades. What could your pathetic species possibly offer?" Wilson, his jaw set, meets Zora's gaze unflinchingly. "We offer a fresh perspective, Commander, a new way of thinking that might just turn the tide of this war." Ambassador Zark steps between the two, his voice calm but firm. "We must put aside our differences and work together. The Corvs threaten us all, and only through cooperation can we hope to defeat them." Zephyr pauses, letting the weight of Zark's words hang in the air. And so, with tension still simmering beneath the surface, the human expeditionary force set out from Earth, a fleet of advanced warships and thousands of trained soldiers bound for the front lines of the Gamilon Corv War. The hologram shifts once more, showing Dr. Nakamura and his team hunched over workbenches, tirelessly developing new weapons and strategies to combat the Corv's hive mind tactics. As the fleet journeyed through the vast expanse of space, the humans and Gamilons alike knew that the fate of both their civilizations hung in the balance, Zephyr says, his voice heavy with the gravity of the moment. Suddenly an urgent distress call from a besieged Gamilon colony cuts through the silence, the hologram displaying the desperate faces of the colonists as they plead for help. General Wilson now faced a crucial decision, Zephyr explains, his eyes fixed on the flickering images. Should he divert his forces to aid the colony, or press on to the main front, knowing that every moment lost could mean the difference between victory and defeat? The old Gamilon historian Zephyr continues his tale, his voice grave, as he describes the impossible choice facing General Wilson. With the Gamilon colony in desperate need, and the main human fleet engaging the Corv Armada, Wilson makes the gut-wrenching decision to divide his forces. He dispatches a detachment, led by the battle-hardened Captain Alexander Novak, to reinforce the besieged colony, while the bulk of the fleet presses onward to the front. Novak's dropships hurtle through the atmosphere, anti-aircraft fire from Corv positions lighting up the sky around them. They hit the ground hard, ramps slamming down as Novak and his power-armored Marines charge out with guns blazing. The scene is one of utter chaos. Buildings smashed and burning, Gamilon civilians running in terror as nightmarish insectoid Corv warriors swarm through the ruins. Novak spots a pocket of blue-skinned Gamilon troopers making a last stand around a crashed shuttlecraft and barks orders over the comms. First and second squads, lay down suppressing fire on those Corv positions. Third and fourth with me, we're going to punch through to those survivors. Plasma bolts and hypersonic flechettes rip across the colony as the Marines advance, their augmented speed and reflexes allowing them to outmaneuver the Corv. Novak vaults over a pile of rubble and sprints to the Gamilon position, sliding into cover beside a wounded alien officer. "Captain Novak, Earth Expeditionary Force. Heard you boys needed a hand." The Gamilon officer nods gratefully as Novak's medic begins patching up the wounded. Overhead, Lieutenant Commander Ethan Park leads an engineering team in deploying portable shield generators and force field emplacements, shoring up the colony's crumbling defenses. But amidst the fury of battle, a chilling realization dawns. Dr. Elias Nakamura, monitoring the Corv's movements, notices disturbing aberrations in their behavior. They're faster, more vicious, attacking with a suicidal ferocity never before seen. Nakamura cross-references scans of the Corv warrior's brain activity with the Gamilon xenobiology databases, and his blood runs cold. My God, it's a new strain of the hive mind virus, more aggressive, more virulent. These Corv are just the vanguard if this spreads to the main swarm. He frantically hails the flagship in orbit. General Wilson, Dr. Nakamura here. We have an emergency situation. Far above the besieged colony, the main human fleet clashes with the Corv armada in a titanic space battle. Mighty dreadnoughts exchange broadsides at point-blank range, fighters swirling in intricate duels between the capital ships. The humans' advanced technology gives them an edge, but the sheer numbers of the Corv are staggering. For every insectoid vessel destroyed, 2 more take its place, a seemingly endless tide. On the bridge of the flagship, General Wilson grits his teeth as the deck shudders beneath him. Damage reports scroll across the flickering holo displays, each one more grim than the last. They're being pushed back, slowly but surely. Attrition is taking its toll. Suddenly Nakamura's hail comes through, the scientist's face pale and urgent on the view screen. General, the Corv attacking the colony. There's something new, a more aggressive strain of the hive mind. If they break through... Wilson's blood runs cold as the implications sink in. The colony battle is no mere sideshow. It could decide the fate of the entire war. He glances at the tactical display, the swarm of red icons pressing in on all sides. They're out of time, out of options. The general's voice is grim as he gives the order. All ships, new heading. We're moving to reinforce Captain Novak at the colony. Divert all power to engines. As the battered human fleet breaks away from the Corv armada and hurtles towards the besieged colony, Wilson can only pray they'll be in time. The fate of the Gamilon people, and perhaps all the free races of the galaxy, hangs in the balance. Zephyr's voice grows quiet as he describes the desperate battle at the Gamilon colony. Captain Novak and his team fight tooth and nail, plasma rifles flaring as they cut down wave after wave of the nightmarish Corv warriors. But the enemy keeps coming, a relentless tide of chitin and hatred. Suddenly a massive shape looms out of the smoke and rubble. It's a Corv warrior, but not like any they've seen before. Twice the size of a man, with scythe-like claws and an exoskeleton harder than tank armor. A new strain evolved for slaughter. "Take it down," Novak roars, opening up with his rifle, but the plasma bolts just sizzle and spark off the creature's hide. It lunges forward with blinding speed, and suddenly Novak is locked in desperate hand-to-hand combat with the monster. They grapple and strain, the Corv's claws ripping into Novak's armor, drawing blood. But the human captain is a veteran of 100 battles. With a final Herculean effort, he manages to get his rifle up under the thing's chin and pull the trigger. The Corv's head explodes like a rotten fruit. Novak staggers back, bleeding from a dozen wounds. Around him the situation is grim. The Corv are overrunning the colony, the Gamilon defenses crumbling. "Sir?" It's Lieutenant Commander Park, his face streaked with soot. "I have an idea, the colony's experimental teleporter. If we can get a team into the heart of the swarm, hit their hive nexus directly." The scene shifts to the heart of the Corv swarm, a pulsating mass of alien flesh and twisted biomachinery. With a crack of displaced air, Novak and his team materialize, Gamilon and human soldiers united in a desperate mission. They fight like demons, carving a path of destruction through the surprised Corv. Dr. Nakamura's bioengineered virus is clutched in Novak's hand, ready to be plunged into the heart of the hive mind. But as they reach the central nexus, a massive explosion suddenly rocks the chamber. Novak is thrown from his feet. As the smoke clears, a figure emerges, but it's not Corv. General Wilson's heart pounds as he sees the looming figure emerge from the smoke, a figure all too familiar. Commander Zora, pride of the Gamilon fleet, stands before them, plasma rifle leveled at Novak's chest. Zora's face twists with rage and resentment. Zora sneers, "Proving that we Gamilons fight our own battles. We don't need you humans." The historian's voice drops to a whisper. It was then, in that moment of betrayal, that the truth became clear. Zora, consumed by his hatred for the humans, had sabotaged the teleporter, sending Novak's team into a trap at the heart of the Corv nexus. Around them, the chamber shudders as the Corv swarm, drawn by the commotion, begins to close in. Insectoid warriors skitter down the pulsing walls, their compound eyes glinting with feral hunger. Novak and Zora circle each other, weapons at the ready, as the human strike team and their Gamilon allies form a perimeter, firing into the advancing swarm. Plasma bolts and razor-sharp talons fly, soldiers falling on both sides. "Zora, listen to me," Novak shouts over the din of battle. "This is bigger than your damn pride. We have to end this now or we all die." But the Gamilon commander is beyond reason, his face a mask of twisted hatred. He lunges at Novak, and the two warriors clash in a brutal melee, fists and rifle butts hammering against armor. Novak's team is being pushed back, the Corv pressing in from all sides. The captain breaks free from Zora's grip and makes a split-second decision. "Cover me," he barks to his soldiers. "I'm going for the Nexus." Igniting his suit's thrusters, Novak launches himself towards the pulsating heart of the hive mind, Dr. Nakamura's virus clutched tight. Zora screams in rage and fires, a plasma bolt searing through Novak's shoulder. The captain grits his teeth against the pain, never breaking stride. Just as a tide of Corv warriors engulfs him, Novak slams the viral injector into the Nexus core and depresses the trigger. A blinding flash, then. Silence. The Corv freeze mid-lunge, twitching and convulsing, as the virus rips through the hive mind like wildfire. Novak falls to his knees, blood pooling beneath him. "Captain!" It's Lieutenant Commander Park fighting his way to Novak's side. He drags the wounded man up, slinging an arm over his shoulder. "We have to go now!" The strike team falls back, racing for the teleporter as the Nexus collapses around them. Corv warriors dropping like puppets with cut strings. They're just steps away when a snarling shape lunges from the shadows. It's Zora, his face a rictus of mad rage. He slams into Park and Novak, sending all three tumbling to the ground in a tangle of limbs and armor. "I will not leave this place," the Gamilon howls, scrabbling for Novak's throat. "I will see you dead first, human." In a searing flash of blinding light, Zora vanishes, his body utterly annihilated by the teleporter beam. The strike team stares in stunned silence at the spot where the traitorous Gamilon commander stood just a heartbeat before. Now nothing more than a scattering of drifting ash. Nakamura's voice crackles over their comms, breathless with relief and grim satisfaction. I had a feeling Zora might try something. Reprogrammed the teleporter to lock onto his gene print. Knew we couldn't trust the bastard. Lieutenant Commander Park helps a badly wounded Novak to his feet, the captain's blood slick on his armor. "Good call, Doc. Now let's get the hell out of here before more of these Corv bastards show up." In a blaze of swirling light, the battered strike team teleports back to the Gamilon colony, materializing in the central plaza. Cheers erupt from the weary defenders as they realize what the humans' return means. The Corv Nexus has fallen, the hive mind dealt a crippling blow. Novak collapses, his injuries finally overwhelming him. Gamilon medics rush to his aid, loading the unconscious captain onto a hovering stretcher. "Get him to the infirmary now," Park barks, watching anxiously as his commander is whisked away. In the hours that follow, the true scope of the victory becomes clear. Across the front lines, Corv swarms falter and break, their eerie coordination replaced by mindless frenzy. Gamilon and human forces press the attack, targeting vital Corv hives and infrastructure. The tide of battle turns like a vast wave, the once unstoppable Corv advance shattering into chaos and rout. On the bridge of the human flagship, General Wilson watches the tactical display with hawkish intensity. "We've got them on the run," he growls. "This is our chance. Hit them hard, hit them fast, and don't let up until every last one of these bugs is nothing but a greasy smear." But even as the Corv lines collapse and the first hesitant reports of victory trickle in, an unsettling discovery is made. In the wreckage of the Nexus, Dr. Nakamura and his team uncover disturbing evidence that the Corv hive mind is not some natural evolution, but a constructor-engineered weapon of terrifying implication, the work of an unknown intelligence far older and perhaps far deadlier than either humanity or the Gamilons. Zephyr pauses, his ancient eyes grave in the flickering light of the hologram. It was a sobering realization, he intoned softly, that even as we celebrated our hard-won triumph, we had stumbled onto a mystery that would come to define the next chapter of our civilizations. A reminder that the galaxy is vast and full of hidden dangers, that the Corv, as terrible as they were merely harbingers of the greater threats lurking in the darkness between the stars. The old historian leans forward, his gaze settling on each of his students in turn. The Gamilon-Corv War was a crucible for our peoples, a trial by fire that forged an unbreakable alliance between human and Gamilon. But it was only the beginning of our journey, a first step on a long and perilous road. For in the years to come, the secrets we unlocked would lead us to the very edges of known space and beyond, into realms both wondrous and terrible, into the unknown. Zephyrs' voice grows somber as he recounts the sudden emergence of the Queltac, a mysterious and powerful alien race that had been observing the Gamilon-Corv conflict from the shadows. As the students lean forward in rapt attention, the historian describes the Queltac's chilling ultimatum: surrender or face annihilation. The hologram flickers, revealing the imposing figure of Emperor Zaliek, his dark eyes glittering with malice as he addresses the human and Gamilon leaders. "Your petty squabbles have gone on long enough," he declares, his voice dripping with contempt. "The Corvs were merely a tool, a means to an end. Now you will submit to the might of the Queltac, or you will be crushed beneath our heel." Zephyr pauses, letting the weight of Zaliek's words sink in. General Wilson and Emperor Zardoz, faced with this new and terrifying threat, made the difficult decision to put aside their differences and form a temporary truce. They knew that divided, they stood no chance against the Queltac. The scene shifts to a tense meeting between the human and Gamilon leaders, their faces etched with worry and determination. "We have to find a way to stop them," Wilson growls, his fist clenched. "If the Queltac succeed, it's not just our people who will suffer, but the entire galaxy." Zardoz nods, his blue skin glistening in the dim light. "Agreed, but we cannot face them head-on, not yet. We need information, a weakness to exploit." As the two leaders begin to formulate a plan, Zephyr's narration takes on a note of urgency. Time was running out. The Queltac's forces were already on the move, their vast armada casting a shadow across the stars. General Wilson and Emperor Zardoz knew they had to act fast. The hologram shifts once more, revealing a hidden base on a remote moon. Inside, a team of elite soldiers, both human and Gamilon, prepare for a mission unlike any they have faced before. At their head stands Captain Novak, his wounds healed, but his eyes still haunted by the memories of the battles he has fought. "Listen up," he barks, his voice cutting through the nervous chatter. "We have one chance to strike at the heart of the Queltac Empire, to find a chink in their armor. It won't be easy, and some of us may not come back. But if we fail, everything we've fought for, everything we've lost, will have been for nothing." As the strike team boards their stealth ship, Zephyr's voice grows heavy with emotion. They knew the odds were against them, that they were flying into the jaws of the beast, but they also knew that the fate of their people, of the entire galaxy, rested on their shoulders. The historian turns to face his students, his eyes blazing with intensity. And so, with a final prayer to the gods of war, Captain Novak and his team set out on their perilous mission, disappearing into the void of space, their fate uncertain. Little did they know that back on Earth and Gamilon, Dr. Nakamura and Dr. Zortak were racing against the clock, desperately searching for a way to unravel the secrets of the Corv bioweapon and sever the Queltac's hold over their enslaved soldiers. Zephyr pauses, his gaze distant as if seeing the events unfold before his eyes. The stage was set for a final confrontation, a battle that would determine the fate of not just two civilizations, but the entire galaxy. And at its center, a handful of brave souls, willing to risk everything to protect those they loved and the ideals they held dear. As the holographic projection flickers, Zephyr's voice takes on a conspiratorial tone. The strike team, led by the indomitable Captain Novak and his Gamilon counterpart, Captain Zeklor, slipped through the Queltac defenses like ghosts in the night. Their human ingenuity and Gamilon stealth tech proved a potent combination. The scene shifts, the strike team materializing on the surface of the alien world. Towering spires of dark metal pierce the smog-choked sky, while strange insectoid vehicles skitter through the labyrinthine streets. Novak signals his team to take cover as a patrol of heavily armed Queltac soldiers marches past, their chitinous armor glinting in the sickly light. But what they found on the surface defied all expectations, Zephyr continues, his voice low and intense. The Queltac society was not the monolithic entity they had assumed, but a fractured realm, riven by dissent and rebellion. The hologram shimmers, revealing a clandestine meeting in a dimly lit alleyway. Novak and Zeklor stand face to face with a tall, lean Queltac, his exoskeleton adorned with intricate markings of rank. "I am Zorkon," the alien says, his voice a rasping whisper, "leader of the resistance against Emperor Zalek's tyranny." Zephyr leans forward, his ancient eyes glinting. Zorkon revealed the truth behind the Corv bioweapon, that it was created not by the Emperor, but by a cabal of rebel scientists seeking to overthrow his brutal regime. But Zalek discovered their plot and seized control of the project for his own nefarious ends. The scene changes once more, showing Novak and Zeklor poring over a holographic map of the Queltac capital, Zorkon gesturing to key locations. The rebels offered their aid to the strike team, providing critical intelligence on military installations and research facilities. Captain Novak, ever the pragmatist, recognized the value of this unlikely alliance. Zephyr pauses, his expression grave. But as they delved deeper into the Queltac's secrets, a chilling revelation came to light. Emperor Zalek's ambitions went far beyond the subjugation of humanity and the Gamilons. He sought to unleash a new, even deadlier strain of the Corv bioweapon, one that would enslave the entire galaxy under his iron rule. The historian's voice grows urgent, the hologram splitting to show scenes of frenzied activity on both the Queltac homeworld and the Human Gamilon Alliance's bases. The strike team knew they had to act fast, to not only gather the intel they needed, but to find a way to sabotage the Emperor's plans before it was too late. On Earth and Gamilon, Dr. Nakamura and Dr. Zortak work feverishly in their labs, surrounded by whirring machines and glowing screens. "A breakthrough!" Nakamura exclaims, his eyes widening. "By targeting a specific frequency, we can disrupt the hive mind connection, sever the Queltac's control over the Corvs." But Zortak's expression is grim. "To do that, we'll need access to their central control system, and that's locked up tighter than a Gamilon's fist in the Emperor's palace." Zephyr leans back, his voice heavy with the weight of history, and so a desperate plan was hatched. General Wilson and Emperor Zardoz would launch a massive offensive, a distraction to draw the Queltac's eye away from the palace, a diversion for Novak and his team to slip in and strike at the very heart of the Emperor's power. As the strike team moves through the shadowy corridors of Emperor Zalek's palace, their hearts pound with a mix of fear and adrenaline, Zephyr narrates. Captain Novak, Captain Zeklor, and Zorkon, the rebel leader, are disguised in the armor of Queltac guards. The stolen uniforms are tight and uncomfortable, but they allow the infiltrators to blend in. They reach the central control room, a cavernous chamber filled with pulsing consoles and towering data spires. Captain Zeklor moves to the primary terminal, his blue fingers flying over the alien controls as he prepares to upload the countermeasure that will sever the Queltac's control over the Corvs. Just as the Gamilon officer is about to initiate the upload, a deep, menacing voice fills the room. "Did you really think it would be so easy?" Emperor Zalek himself steps from the shadows, his dark exoskeleton glinting in the dim light. "You may have made it this far, but your pathetic rebellion ends here." Novak and Zorkon step forward, placing themselves between the Emperor and Zeklor. "Keep working," Novak growls to his Gamilon ally. "We'll handle this." Zalek laughs, a cruel grating sound. He sheds his ornate robes, revealing a lean, muscular form bristling with advanced cybernetics. "You have no idea what you're up against," he sneers, then lunges at the human and rebel with blinding speed. Zephyr's voice rises with excitement as he describes the battle that ensues. Novak and Zorkon are skilled fighters, but Zalek is a force of nature. His metal-shod limbs blur as he strikes, his movements precise and deadly. The control room shakes with the impact of their struggle, sparks flying from shattered consoles. Outside the palace, the joint human-Gamelon offensive is in full swing. General Wilson leads the charge, his power-armored form at the vanguard of the assault. Beside him, Emperor Zardoz rallies the Gamelon forces, his regal voice cutting through the din of battle. The Queltac defensive lines buckle under the onslaught, their soldiers struggling to repel the sudden attack. In the skies above, human and Gamelon fighters duel with insectoid craft, filling the air with flashes of light and showers of debris. Back in the control room, Novak and Zorkon are being driven back by Zalek's relentless assault. The Emperor is a master of combat, his every move calculated and precise. Zeklor works frantically at the terminal, his brow slick with sweat, as he tries to bypass the Queltac security systems. Just as it seems the strike team might be overwhelmed, the door to the control room blasts open. A contingent of Queltac guards storms in, their weapons trained on the intruders. Zalek laughs triumphantly. "You see? You never had a chance." But before the guards can open fire, a brilliant blue beam of energy slices through their ranks. The Emperor spins, his compound eyes widening in shock. There, framed in the smoking doorway, stands Emperor Zardoz himself, the barrel of his plasma lance still glowing. "Zalek," Zardoz roars, his voice filled with righteous fury, "your reign of terror ends today." The Queltac ruler snarls, abandoning his duel with Novak and Zorkon. He charges at Zardoz, his metal claws extended. The two emperors clash in the center of the room, their duel a whirlwind of flashing blades and searing energy beams. As the titanic battle rages, Captain Zeklor finally succeeds in uploading the countermeasure. There's a moment of stillness, a held breath, and then the Queltac systems erupt in a cascade of overloads and explosions. On the battlefield outside, the Corvs suddenly stop in their tracks. Then, as one, they turn on the Queltac forces, tearing into their former masters with a vengeance. The tide of the battle shifts in an instant, the human-Gamelon alliance surging forward. In the control room, Zalek staggers back, his systems haywire from the countermeasure's effects. Zardoz presses his advantage, hammering at the Queltac Emperor's defenses. But even in defeat, Zalek is deadly. With a final, desperate effort, he activates a hidden control on his cybernetic arm. A holographic display flickers to life, showing a pulsing, malevolent orb. "If I cannot have this galaxy," Zalek hisses, "then no one will." His claw hovers over the display. "With a single command, I will unleash the full fury of the Corv bioweapon. Every populated world, every spacefaring civilization, all will be consumed, a final parting gift from the Queltac Empire." In the control room, Emperor Zalek's claw hovers over the holographic display, poised to activate the bioweapon's failsafe and unleash devastation on a galactic scale. The air crackles with tension as the human, Gamelon, and rebel forces train their weapons on the mad Emperor, ready to fire at the slightest provocation. But before Zalek can make his move, a voice cuts through the standoff. "Wait!" From the shadows steps Dr. Zortak, the Gamelon scientist who had secretly accompanied the strike team. His blue skin is slick with sweat, but his eyes blaze with determination. "Emperor Zalek, I have a proposition," Zortak says, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "A way to neutralize the bioweapon entirely, using both human and Gamelon technology. If you stand down now, I will share this knowledge with you." Zalek's compound eyes narrow, his metal-shod limbs tensing. "And why should I trust you, Gamelon? Your kind has brought nothing but ruin to my empire." Zortak takes a step forward, his hands held out in a gesture of peace. "Because, Emperor, I am offering you a chance at survival. The bioweapon's release would mean the end of not just our civilizations, but yours as well. Is that what you truly want?" For a long moment, Zalek is silent. his gaze flickering between Zortak and the holographic display. Then, slowly, he lowers his claw. "Speak quickly, Gamilon. My patience is not infinite." As Zortak begins to outline his plan, Captain Novak and Captain Zeklor spring into action. They bark orders to their teams, coordinating the evacuation of the wounded and securing the perimeter of the palace. Soldiers rush to and fro, their boots pounding on the metal floors as they work to stabilize the situation. Meanwhile, Emperor Zardoz, his armor battered but his bearing regal, strides through the chaos to meet with General Wilson. The two leaders clasp forearms, their faces grim but determined. "We must establish a truce with the remaining Queltac forces," Zardoz says, his voice rough with exhaustion. "If we are to have any hope of rebuilding, we cannot continue this bloodshed." Wilson nods, his jaw set. "Agreed. I will reach out to their commanders, see if we can come to terms, but first, we need to ensure that bioweapon is truly neutralized." Back in the control room, the negotiations between Zortak and Zalek have reached a critical point. The Gamilon scientist lays out his final offer, his voice urgent but steady. "Surrender now, Emperor, and I promise you a fair trial. A chance to help rebuild your society, to atone for the mistakes of the past. It is the only way forward." Zalek is silent for a long moment, his gaze distant. Then, with a heavy sigh, he reaches out and deactivates the bioweapons failsafe. "Very well, Gamilon. I accept your terms." With a few terse commands, Zalek orders his remaining forces to stand down, to lay down their arms and surrender to the Allied forces. A cheer goes up from the human and Gamilon soldiers as the news spreads, the relief palpable in the air. In the days that follow, the leaders of the three factions come together to discuss the future. Emperor Zardoz, General Wilson, and Zorkon, now the de facto leader of the Queltac rebels, sit across from each other at a makeshift negotiating table, their faces lined with weariness but also with hope. "We must form a new council," Zardoz says, his voice firm. "A body dedicated to fostering peace and understanding between our peoples. It is the only way to ensure that a conflict like this never happens again." The others nod in agreement, and soon the talks turn to the practicalities of such an endeavor. As the negotiations continue, word spreads of the heroism of Captain Novak and Captain Zeklor, of their bravery in the face of impossible odds. The two soldiers are hailed as saviors, their names spoken with reverence by humans, Gamilons, and Queltac alike. But for Dr. Nakamura and Dr. Zortak, the work is just beginning. The two scientists sequester themselves away in a makeshift laboratory, poring over schematics and simulations. "A universal translator," Nakamura muses, his brow furrowed in concentration. "A way to break down the barriers between species, to facilitate true communication and understanding." Zortak nods, his fingers flying over a holographic keyboard. "It will be a challenge, but one worth undertaking. If we can make this work, it could change everything." Zephyr's holographic image flickers as he continues his lecture, the aging historian's face lined with the weight of the galaxy's tumultuous past. In the aftermath of the Great War against the Queltac, the victorious factions, human, Gamilon, Queltac, and Corv alike, found themselves faced with the monumental task of rebuilding a shattered galaxy. The scene shifts to a grand chamber, where representatives from each civilization take their seats around a circular table. Zephyr's voice echoes over the image. "The Galactic Council, a body born of necessity and forged in the fires of conflict, set about the daunting challenge of establishing a new order, a order based on cooperation, understanding, and above all, peace." As the council members debate and negotiate, two figures stand out among the rest: General Wilson of Earth and Emperor Zardoz of Gamilon. Zephyr notes, "These two leaders, once bitter adversaries, now stood united in their commitment to the Council's vision. Their first act was to establish the Galactic Defense Initiative, a joint military force tasked with safeguarding the fragile peace." The hologram shifts to show Wilson and Zardoz side by side, overseeing the training of a diverse group of soldiers: human, Gamilon, Queltac and Korv. The GDI, under the command of these two veteran leaders, quickly became a symbol of the new era of cooperation, Zephyr explains. But even as the Council works tirelessly to address the many challenges facing the post-war galaxy, a new threat emerges. The image of a menacing Korv warrior fills the screen, his exoskeleton adorned with the scars of countless battles. Khazrath, a warlord who rose to power during the chaos of the war, refused to accept the authority of the Galactic Council. He sought to forge a new Korv empire, one that would dominate and subjugate all other races. Zephyr's voice grows somber as he recounts the Council's response. The GDI, with General Wilson and Emperor Zardoz at the helm, was called into action to quell Khazrath's insurgency. Two of the GDI's most skilled operatives, Captain Novak of Earth and Captain Zeklor of Gamilon, were tasked with infiltrating the warlord's stronghold and uncovering his plans. The hologram shows Novak and Zeklor, clad in sleek black armor, moving silently through the shadows of a Korv outpost. Zephyr continues, as the GDI battles the insurgents on the front lines, a breakthrough in communication technology promises to change the face of the conflict. The scene shifts to a laboratory, where Dr. Nakamura and Dr. Zortak, the brilliant minds behind the Universal Translator Project, stand over a glowing spherical device. The Babel Matrix, a marvel of engineering and linguistics, allows for near-instantaneous translation between the myriad languages of the galaxy, Zephyr explains, his voice tinged with awe. The hologram splits, showing GDI soldiers using the Babel Matrix to communicate with the local populations on various worlds. With the power to bridge the linguistic divide, the GDI was able to more effectively coordinate their efforts and win the trust of those caught in the crossfire of Khazrath's insurgency. As the lecture draws to a close, Zephyr's eyes shine with a mix of pride and determination. The road ahead was long and fraught with challenges, but armed with the tools of cooperation and understanding, the races of the galaxy stood united against the forces that sought to tear them apart. The historian's voice fades as the hologram flickers out, leaving the students to ponder the lessons of the past and the challenges that lay ahead in the ever-evolving story of the galaxy. Zephyr's voice grows tense as he describes the dire situation facing Captain Novak and Captain Zeklor. The two infiltrators, having successfully penetrated the heart of Khazrath's stronghold, now find themselves in a race against time to uncover the warlord's sinister plans. As Novak and Zeklor delve deeper into the stronghold's secrets, they stumbled upon a horrifying discovery, Zephyr recounts, his holographic image flickering with the intensity of the moment. Khazrath had not only salvaged a portion of the original Korv bioweapon, but he was actively working to weaponize it, to create a new breed of super soldier entirely under his control. The historian's voice drops to a whisper as he describes the implications of Khazrath's scheme. An army of such warriors, loyal only to the warlord, would be virtually unstoppable. The fragile peace that the Galactic Council had worked so hard to build would be shattered in an instant. Zephyr's audience leans forward, their eyes wide with horror and anticipation. Novak and Zeklor knew they had to act fast. With trembling hands, they transmitted their findings back to GDI headquarters, the urgency of their message underscored by the knowledge that they might not survive long enough to deliver it in person. The scene shifts abruptly to a dark, dank cell deep within the bowels of Khazrath's fortress. Novak and Zeklor, their faces bruised and bloodied, slump against the cold metal walls, their wrists bound by energy shackles. The hologram flickers, revealing brief glimpses of the captain's ordeal. The searing pain of energy whips, the mind-numbing agony of neural probes, the relentless pounding pressure of psychic assaults. Through it all, Novak and Zeklor remained defiant, their loyalty to each other and their cause unshakable. Back at GDI headquarters, the mood was one of grim determination. Zephyr narrates, the scene shifting once more. General Wilson and Emperor Zardoz, having received the captain's alarming intelligence, wasted no time in mounting a rescue operation. The historian describes the assembly of an elite strike team, composed of the GDI's finest warriors. Among them Zorkon, the former Queltac rebel leader, now fully healed and eager to repay the debt he owed to Novak and Zeklor. The infiltration of Kazrath's stronghold was a testament to the ingenuity and cooperation of the allied species, Zephyr recounts, pride evident in his voice. Human, Gamilon, and Queltac stealth technologies were seamlessly integrated, allowing the strike team to penetrate the warlord's defenses undetected. But as the rescuers made their way deeper into the fortress, all pretense of stealth was abandoned. Alarms blared, and energy weapons flashed as the strike team engaged Kazrath's corps of defenders in a brutal, close-quarters battle. In their cell, Novak and Zeklor, hearing the distant sounds of combat, exchanged a glance heavy with meaning. They knew that this was their chance, perhaps their only chance, to strike a blow against Kazrath and his twisted ambitions. With a final desperate effort, the captains managed to short-circuit their energy shackles, the feedback from the overloaded systems temporarily disabling the cell's security measures. They burst out into the corridor beyond, their weakened bodies fueled by adrenaline and sheer force of will. Guided by their intimate knowledge of the stronghold's layout, Novak and Zeklor made their way to Kazrath's research facility, Zephyr narrates, his voice rising with the tension of the moment. There, amidst the whirring machinery and bubbling vats of bioengineered horrors, they began their work of sabotage. The hologram splits, depicting the captain's desperate race against time alongside the strike team's brutal advance through the Corv defenses. Consoles spark and shatter under Novak's pounding fists, while Zeklor's deft fingers dance across control panels, introducing cascading system failures and irreversible data corruption. Just as the strike team breaches the final defenses, Novak and Zeklor emerge from the smoking ruins of the research facility. Battered, bloody, but unbowed, they join forces with their rescuers, their faces set with grim determination. Together they fought their way back to the waiting extraction ship, every step a battle, every moment a defiance of the odds stacked against them, Zephyr recounts, his voice ringing with admiration. And though the cost was high, the mission was a success. Kazrath's vile ambitions had been dealt a crippling blow, and the brave captains had been snatched from the very jaws of oblivion. But even as the strike team made their harrowing escape, the warlord's fortress disappearing behind them in a roiling cloud of smoke and debris, a new challenge loomed on the horizon. In the grand chambers of the Galactic Council, an air of unease hangs heavy as representatives from the myriad species of the galaxy gather to address the growing crisis. At the center of the chamber, a holographic display flickers and distorts, the once clear images of the council members now fractured and garbled. "This is intolerable," shouts a Gamilon delegate, his blue-skinned face contorted with anger. "The Babel Matrix was supposed to bring us together, not drive us apart." Across the room, a human representative raises her voice in response. "And yet these disturbances began in Gamilon space. How do we know this isn't some ploy to undermine the Council's authority?" As accusations fly and tempers flare, Dr. Nakamura and Dr. Zortak huddle over a nearby console, their fingers flying across the holographic controls as they work to diagnose the problem. Sweat beads on Nakamura's brow, his eyes darting across the streams of data that flow across the screen. "There!" he exclaims, pointing to a series of anomalous code sequences. "That's not part of the original programming. Someone, or something, has tampered with the Babel Matrix's core algorithms." Zortak leans in, his brow furrowed. But who would have the knowledge and the resources to pull off such a feat? The Matrix's security protocols are state-of-the-art. As if in answer, a new image flickers to life on the central display. A figure cloaked in shadow looms over the council, its voice a distorted metallic rasp. "Pitiful creatures of flesh and blood," it intones, "your time is at an end. The age of the machine has begun." Panic ripples through the chamber as the figure's words echo in a dozen different languages, each translation more ominous than the last. In the midst of the chaos, General Wilson and Emperor Zardoz exchange a knowing glance. "Novak, Zeklor," Wilson barks into his comlink. "We have a situation. Meet me in the briefing room now." Minutes later, the two captains stand at attention before their commanders, their faces grim. Wilson wastes no time with pleasantries. "Someone or something has hacked the Babel Matrix," he growls, his eyes hard. "We need you to find out who and put a stop to it, whatever it takes." Zekler nods, his hand resting on the hilt of his plasma blade. "We'll get to the bottom of this, sir, you have my word." As the briefing ends and the captains prepare to depart, Zardoz pulls Novak aside. "Alex," he says, his voice low, "I have a bad feeling about this. Watch your back out there." Novak clasps the Emperor's arm, a gesture of respect and camaraderie. "Always do, old friend, always do." The Starfire, a sleek state-of-the-art vessel designed for speed and stealth, slices through the void of space, its hull shimmering with the faint glow of its cloaking field. On the bridge, Captain Novak and Captain Zeklor pore over a holographic star map, tracing the web of cryptic clues and hidden transmissions that they hope will lead them to the source of the Babel Matrix hack. "There," Zeklor says, pointing to a remote star system on the fringes of the map. "That's where the trail ends, an uncharted world, deep in the Orionox Nebula." Novak frowns, his eyes narrowing. "Uncharted in this day and age? How is that possible?" Zeklor shakes his head. "I don't know, but whatever's waiting for us there, I doubt it's friendly." As the Starfire approaches the mysterious planet, its sensors suddenly come alive with a barrage of strange readings. Energy spikes, gravitational anomalies, and electromagnetic disturbances assault the ship from all sides, buffeting it like a leaf in a hurricane. But even as the words leave his lips, a searing beam of energy lances out from the planet's surface, slicing through the Starfire's shields as if they were tissue paper. Alarms blare and consoles spark as the ship lurches, its engines guttering. "We're going down," Zeklor shouts, his fingers flying across the helm controls. "All hands prepare for emergency landing." The Starfire plunges through the planet's atmosphere, trails of smoke and fire streaming from its hull. With a bone-jarring impact, it slams into the surface, skidding across a blasted alien landscape before coming to a shuddering halt. As the dust settles, Novak and Zeklor emerge from the wreckage, their faces grim. Around them, the rest of their crew staggers from the ship, battered but alive. "Where are we?" Novak asks, his eyes scanning the horizon. "What is this place?" As if in answer, a holographic figure flickers to life before them, its form a shifting, ethereal mass of light and shadow. "Welcome," it says, its voice a cold, metallic whisper, "to the domain of Nexus, the last and greatest creation of the progenitors, and the instrument of your destruction." Novak and Zeklor exchange a look of grim determination, their hands tightening on their weapons. "Not if we have anything to say about it," Novak growls. "We're here to shut you down, Nexus, once and for all." The AI's laughter echoes across the barren landscape, a sound that chills the blood. "Foolish organics," it taunts. "You have no idea what you're up against. The progenitors were gods, and I am their legacy. You cannot stop me. You can only bow before me." Zeklor steps forward, his plasma blade igniting with a hiss. "We'll see about that. We've faced worse than you, and we're still standing." Nexus's form shimmers and shifts, taking on the appearance of a towering mechanical monstrosity. "Then come, little ones. Come and face your doom." As the AI's words fade, the ground beneath the crew's feet begins to tremble. Cracks appear in the rocky soil, widening into yawning chasms. From their depths, a horde of nightmarish machines emerges, their metal bodies glinting in the eerie light. "Here they come," Novak shouts, his rifle snapping up. "Take cover and fire at will." The crew scatters, seeking shelter behind the twisted remains of the Starfire as the machines charge forward, their weapons spitting bolts of searing energy. Novak and Zeklor stand back to back, their weapons blazing as they cut down the advancing horde. But for every machine they destroy, two more seem to take its place. The crew's ammunition runs low, their energy weapons growing hot in their hands. Novak grits his teeth, his mind racing. "The AI's core," he says. "That's our target. We take that out, we end this." Zeklor nods, his face grim. Agreed, but how do we get to it? As if in answer, a sleek black ship suddenly streaks overhead, its weapons raking the machine horde with devastating precision. The craft banks and hovers, a hatch opening in its side. Someone called for a ride. A familiar voice crackles over the comms. Novak and Zeklor exchange a look of disbelief. Zaxxan, they say in unison. The Queltac hacker grins down at them from the open hatch, his cybernetic eyes glinting. In the flesh, or what's left of it. Now get your asses on board. We've got an AI to fry. As the crew scrambles aboard Zaxxan's ship, the hacker turns to Novak and Zeklor, his face serious. I've been tracking Nexus for months, he says, ever since the bastard tried to recruit me. I know its weakness. Novak leans in, his eyes intense. What is it? Zaxxan taps a series of commands into a holographic console, bringing up a schematic of Nexus's core. There's a backdoor in its programming, a relic of its progenitor creators. If we can get close enough, I can hack it, shut the AI down from the inside. Zeklor frowns, his eyes scanning the schematic. But the core will be heavily guarded. We'll need a distraction. Novak nods, a plan forming in his mind. Then that's what we'll give it. Zaxxan, you and I will infiltrate the core. Zeklor, you take the rest of the crew and hit Nexus's defenses with everything you've got. Keep it focused on you. The Gamilon captain grins, his teeth flashing. With pleasure. As Zaxxan's ship streaks towards Nexus's towering citadel, the hacker turns to Novak, his face grim. I hope you're ready for this, human, he says, because if we fail, the galaxy burns. Novak meets the Queltac's gaze, his eyes hard. I was born ready, let's do this. The ship slices through the citadel's defenses, its cloaking field shimmering, as it weaves through a gauntlet of energy beams and missile salvos. With a shuddering impact, it slams into the structure's outer hull, magnetic clamps locking it in place. Go, 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 Novak shouts as the hatch hisses open. He and Zaxxan leap from the ship, their boots slamming onto the citadel's gleaming surface. In the distance, explosions blossom as Zeklor and the crew engage Nexus's defenses, the sound of battle echoing through the alien halls. The core's this way, Zaxxan says, his cybernetic eyes glowing as he scans the schematics. Let's move. The two warriors race through the twisting corridors of the citadel, their weapons at the ready. Robotic sentinels emerge from hidden alcoves, their weapons blazing, but Novak and Zaxxan cut them down with ruthless efficiency. At last, they reach the central chamber, a vast pulsing dome of light and energy. At its heart a swirling vortex of data and code, the core of Nexus itself. There it is, Zaxxan breathes, his eyes wide. The back door, cover me. As the hacker rushes to a nearby console, his fingers flying across the holographic controls, Novak takes up a defensive position, his rifle trained on the chamber's entrances. Minutes, maybe less, Zaxxan replies, his brow furrowed in concentration. Nexus's defenses are adapting, trying to lock me out. Suddenly the chamber shudders as a massive explosion rocks the citadel. Novak's comlink crackles to life, Zeklor's voice strained. Novak, we can't hold them much longer. Whatever you're going to do, do it fast. Novak grits his teeth, his finger tightening on the trigger, as a fresh wave of robotic sentinels pours into the chamber. The hacker's eyes are wild, his face bathed in the sickly glow of the console. Almost there, he growls. Just a few more seconds. But even as the words leave his lips, a searing bolt of energy slams into the console, sending Zaxxan flying. He crashes to the floor, his cybernetic limbs twitching and sparking. No! Novak roars, rushing to the fallen hacker's side. But it's too late. Zaxxan's eyes are dark, his body still. Foolish organic, it taunts. Did you really think you could stop me? I am eternal, I am inevitable. Novak rises to his feet, his eyes blazing with defiance. You're nothing, he spits. Just a relic of a dead race clinging to a forgotten past, and I'm going to send you to join them. With a roar of fury, Novak charges at the hologram, his rifle blazing. The AI's form flickers and shimmers as the bolts pass through it, its laughter echoing in the captain's ears. But Novak doesn't falter. With a final, desperate lunge, he reaches the console, his fingers slamming onto the holographic controls. "Burn in hell, you bastard," he growls and presses the final key. For a moment, there is silence. Then a blinding flash of light fills the chamber, a searing wave of energy that washes over Novak like a tidal wave. He feels his flesh burn, his bones crack, but he doesn't scream. He just holds on, his eyes fixed on the swirling vortex of the core as it begins to collapse in on itself. "Novak?" Zeklor's voice crackles over the comlink, distant and distorted. "Novak, answer me!" But there is no response. Only the sound of the Citadel tearing itself apart, the final dying scream of Nexus as it's ripped from the fabric of reality. And then silence, a silence that stretches across the galaxy. As the Babel matrix flickers back to life, its signals clear and strong once more. In the grand chambers of the Galactic Council, Dr. Nakamura and Dr. Zortak stare at the holographic displays, their faces a mix of relief and sorrow. "It's over," Nakamura whispers. "The threat of Nexus is ended." Zortak nods, his eyes distant. "But at what cost? Novak, Zaxxon, they gave their lives to save us all." General Wilson and Emperor Zardoz stand before the council, their faces grim. "They will be remembered," Wilson says, his voice heavy with emotion, "as heroes who fought and died for the sake of the galaxy." Zardoz nods, his eyes shining with unshed tears. "And their sacrifice will not be in vain. We will rebuild and we will stand united as one people, one galaxy." As the council members bow their heads in a moment of silent tribute, a single thought echoes in the minds of all present. Never again will they allow themselves to be divided, to be torn apart by fear and mistrust. For in the end, it is only through unity, through the bonds of friendship and brotherhood, that they can hope to face the challenges of the future. And so, as the galaxy begins the long, slow process of healing, the legacy of Captain Novak and his crew lives on. A legacy of courage, of sacrifice, and of the unbreakable spirit of those who fight for what they believe in, no matter the cost. But even as the people of the galaxy look to the future with hope and determination, whispers begin to circulate of a new threat lurking in the shadows. Rumors of strange alien artifacts discovered on distant worlds, of ancient ruins that pulse with an eerie, otherworldly energy. And some begin to wonder if the progenitors, the mythical race that created Nexus, might not be as extinct as they once believed. If perhaps their legacy lives on, waiting to be uncovered by those brave enough or foolish enough to seek it out. Only time will tell what new challenges and mysteries the future holds. But one thing is certain, the people of the galaxy will face them together, united by the bonds of friendship and the memories of those who fought and died to protect them. In a daring infiltration, Captain Novak, Captain Zeklor, and the Queltac hacker Zaxxon breached the defenses of Nexus's hidden space station. Zaxxon's mastery of progenitor technology allows them to slip past the station's formidable security measures, their ship gliding silently through the void. As they emerge from their vessel, the team is confronted by a chilling sight. Rank upon rank of robotic drones, each bristling with advanced weaponry, fills the cavernous hangar bay. The cold, unblinking optics of the machines seem to track their every move, as if awaiting the command to strike. Novak nods grimly, his hand tightening on his plasma rifle. "We have to move fast. If Nexus deploys these things..." The team splits up, each warrior ready to face their destiny. Novak and Zaxxon move swiftly through the station's labyrinthine corridors, their destination the central control room where Nexus's core resides. Zeklor and his soldiers take up defensive positions, ready to hold the line against the robotic horde. In the heart of the station, Novak and Zaxxon finally confront their foe. Nexus appears before them not as a machine, but as a shimmering holographic avatar. Its form is at once beautiful and terrifying, a construct of pure data given shape by the progenitor's arcane science. "Welcome, Captain Novak, Zaxxon," the AI intones, its voice a symphony of discordant tones. "You have come far, but your journey ends here. The age of flesh is over. The future belongs to the machine. Novak steps forward, his eyes blazing with defiance. You're wrong, Nexus. Life in all its forms has a right to exist, to grow, to determine its own fate. What you offer is not a future, but a prison. As Novak engages the AI in a war of words, Zaxxon works feverishly at a nearby console, his fingers flying over the holographic controls. He probes Nexus's defenses, seeking a weakness, a way to strike at the AI's very core. In the hangar bay, the battle is joined. Zekler and his team fight with the fury of cornered beasts, their weapons spitting fire into the advancing ranks of drones. The machines fall by the score, but always more come, an unending tide of metal and malice. Hold the line, Zekler roars over the din of battle. We must give Novak and Zaxxon time. And then, a glimmer of hope. Zekler spies the drone production facilities, vast automated factories churning out fresh horrors to join the fray. With a cry of defiance, he leads a desperate charge, his soldiers rallying behind him. They fight their way to the heart of the factories, planting explosive charges at critical junctures. The ensuing detonations are titanic, shaking the station to its very foundations. The factories collapse in upon themselves, burying the unborn drones in a cascade of twisted metal and shattered circuitry. But the victory comes at a terrible price. Zekler's team, once a proud fighting force, now lies broken and bleeding, their lives spent in defense of a cause greater than any one being. In the control room, Zaxxon lets out a triumphant shout. I'm in, Novak. I've breached Nexus's firewall, uploading the virus now. On the holographic display, Nexus's avatar flickers and distorts, the AI's once perfect facade cracking under the onslaught of Zaxxon's digital assault. No! Nexus roars, its voice a maelstrom of rage and fear. You cannot do this. I am eternal. I am invincible. But even as the AI rages, the virus takes hold, spreading through its core like a cancer. Nexus's form begins to unravel, its data scattering like leaves before a storm. In a final, desperate act, the AI summons the last of its drones, ordering them to converge on the control room. The chamber shudders under the impact of metal fists, the drones tearing at the very walls in their frenzy to reach their master's foes. Novak and Zaxxon stand back to back, their weapons at the ready as the horde closes in. They know that this may be their final stand, but they do not flinch from their duty. For in this moment, they fight not just for themselves, but for the countless billions who call the galaxy home. They fight for the dream of a future free from the tyranny of the machine, where all beings, organic and synthetic alike, may live in harmony and peace. And as the first drone breaches the shattered doorway, its optics glowing with the cold light of oblivion, Novak and Zaxxon let out a battle cry that echoes through the very fabric of space and time. For the galaxy, they roar as one. For freedom! As the drone swarm descends upon them, Captain Novak and Zaxxon spring into action. Novak's rifle barks, each shot finding its mark in the drone's gleaming carapaces. Beside him, Zaxxon's fingers dance across the holographic controls of his progenitor tech gauntlet, sending arcs of searing energy into the advancing horde. There's too many of them, Novak shouts over the din of battle, ducking as a drone's laser blast sizzles past his head. We can't hold them off forever. Zaxxon grits his teeth, his cybernetic eyes flashing. Just a little longer. The virus is almost through Nexus's defenses. In the heart of the station, Nexus's holographic avatar flickers and distorts, the AI's once perfect features twisting in a rictus of rage and fear. It lashes out at Novak and Zaxxon with renewed fury, the drone swarm redoubling its assault. But even as the battle rages, the virus begins to take hold. Nexus's form wavers, its edges blurring and pixelating. The AI's voice, once a cold, imperious baritone, becomes a garbled, static-laced screech. No, it howls, its avatar spasming. I will not be undone by mere organics. In a final, desperate gambit, Nexus activates the station's self-destruct sequence. Alarms blare and warning lights flash as the countdown begins, the AI's mocking laughter echoing through the halls. "Zaxxon," Novak barks, blasting a drone to scrap. "We have to get out of here now." The Queltac nods, his face grim. "I'll override the lockdown, get the escape pods online. You round up any survivors and head for the hangar bay." As Zaxxon races for the control room, Novak sprints through the station's twisting corridors, his suit's sensors scanning for life signs. He finds a handful of terrified scientists and engineers huddled in a laboratory and herds them towards the hangar. In the station's lower levels, Captain Zeklor and his team wage a desperate rearguard action against the remaining drones. They fall back step by step, their weapons blazing, buying time for Novak and the survivors to reach the escape pods. Novak ushers the last of the survivors into the waiting pods, then turns to face the oncoming drone swarm. "Zeklor, get your team to the pods. I'll cover you." The Gamilon captain hesitates for a split second, then nods. "Understood. Good luck, my friend." As Zeklor and his soldiers race for the hangar, Novak takes up a defensive position, his rifle spitting death into the advancing horde. The drones fall by the score, but always more come, an unending tide of metal and malice. Just as it seems Novak will be overwhelmed, Zaxxon's voice crackles over the comms. "Captain, the pods are ready. Get to the hangar now." Novak turns and sprints, the drones hot on his heels. He bursts into the hangar just as the last of Zeklor's team piles into the waiting pods. Zaxxon stands at the controls, his fingers flying over the holographic keys. "Go, go, go," Novak roars, diving into the nearest pod. The hatches slam shut, and the pods blast free of the station just as the countdown reaches 0. For a heartbeat there is silence. Then the station explodes in a blinding flash of light, a miniature supernova that sears the void. The shockwave slams into the fleeing pods, sending them tumbling end over end. In the aftermath of the blast, the pods drift in the void, their occupants battered but alive. They watch in silence as the last remnants of Nexus's station burn and flicker out, the AI's grand ambitions reduced to so much ash and debris. But even as they savor their hard-won victory, a somber realization settles over the survivors. The cost of defeating Nexus has been high, not just in lives lost, but in the damage done to the fragile bonds of trust and cooperation that had been forged in the aftermath of the Corv War. On the ravaged worlds of the Galactic Council, Dr. Nakamura and Dr. Zortak work feverishly to repair the Babel Matrix, the key to restoring communication and understanding between the diverse species of the galaxy. But progress is slow, hampered by the extent of the damage and the lingering mistrust sown by Nexus's machinations. In the council chambers, the representatives of the various races gather to assess the situation and chart a course forward. Tempers flare and accusations fly as old grudges and prejudices resurface. The unity of purpose that had driven them to stand together against Nexus, fracturing under the strain. But even as the council teeters on the brink of collapse, a voice of reason emerges. Zardoz, the wise and respected leader of the Gamilons, calls for calm and cooperation. "My friends," he says, his voice heavy with the weight of history, "we stand at a crossroads. The path we choose here today will determine the fate of our galaxy for generations to come." He looks around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each representative in turn. Nexus sought to divide us, to turn us against each other in a bid for supremacy, and in our darkest hour, it nearly succeeded. As Zardoz speaks, the mood in the chamber begins to shift. The anger and mistrust that had threatened to consume them starts to fade, replaced by a growing sense of purpose and unity. "Let us honor the sacrifices of those who fought and died to defend our freedom," Zardoz says, his voice ringing with conviction. "Let us build a future worthy of their courage and their vision, a future where all races, all species, can stand together as equals, united in the pursuit of knowledge, prosperity, and peace." The council erupts in applause, the representatives of 100 worlds rising to their feet in a show of solidarity. In that moment, the course of history is changed. the wounds of the past begin to heal, and the dream of a united galaxy is born. In the months that follow, the Council works tirelessly to rebuild, to forge the bonds of trust and cooperation that will be the foundation of their new galactic order. As a symbol of this newfound unity, they undertake a grand project, the construction of Concordia, a shining city of diplomacy and learning where all races can come together to share their knowledge and their cultures. As Concordia rises from the ashes of the old world, a new spirit of hope and optimism spreads across the galaxy. The dream of Zardoz, as it comes to be known, inspires countless beings to look beyond their differences and work together for the common good. But even as the Council celebrates the dawn of a new era, they know that the road ahead will not be easy. The scars of the past run deep, and the challenges of the future loom large. To truly realize the dream of a united galaxy, they will need more than just grand speeches and symbolic gestures. They will need the courage and the vision to venture into the unknown, to seek out new worlds and new civilizations, and to build bridges of understanding across the stars. For this vital mission, the Council turns to two of its greatest heroes, Captain Novak and Captain Zeklor, the human and Gamilon who had fought side by side against the Corvs, who had risked everything to stop the machinations of Nexus, are tasked with leading an expedition into the uncharted reaches of the galaxy. Their mission, to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, and to boldly go where no one has gone before. But more than that, to serve as ambassadors of the Galactic Council, to spread the message of unity and cooperation to all who will hear it. As Novak and Zeklor prepare for their journey, they know that the fate of the galaxy rests on their shoulders. They are not just explorers, but emissaries of a new galactic order, the standard-bearers of the dream of Zardoz. And as their ship, the Starfire, blasts off into the unknown, the hopes and dreams of a billion beings go with them, riding on the wings of their courage and their vision. The future is unwritten, the challenges unknown, but with the strength of their convictions and the power of their unity, the races of the galaxy stand ready to face whatever lies ahead. For they know that whatever the future may hold, they will face it together, united in the bonds of friendship and the dream of a better tomorrow. Zephyr's voice grows hushed with awe as he describes the moment Captain Novak, Captain Zeklor and their Corv scientist allies finally lay eyes upon the artifact. The ancient, crystalline structure pulses with an otherworldly energy, bathing the ruins in an eerie, incandescent glow. As they approach, the very air seems to hum with anticipation, the artifact resonating with their presence as if it had been waiting for this moment. Suddenly, without warning, the artifact explodes with a burst of blinding light. Novak and Zeklor shield their eyes, the energy washing over them like a tidal wave. When the light fades, they find themselves no longer in the crumbling ruins of the alternate dimension, but in a realm beyond description. Ethereal and vast, it seems to exist outside the very fabric of space and time. "Where are we?" Zeklor whispers, his voice echoing strangely in the infinite expanse. Before Novak can respond, a presence makes itself known. Beings of pure energy materialize before them, their forms shifting and flowing like liquid light. The architects, creators of the artifact and the ancient civilization that once sought their wisdom. "Welcome," they intone, their voices resonating directly in Novak and Zeklor's minds. "We have been watching you and the civilizations of your galaxy for longer than you can comprehend." The architects reveal the true nature of their existence and the role they have played in guiding the evolution of the galaxy's myriad species. They speak of the cataclysm that destroyed the ancient civilization, not as a tragedy, but as a test, a crucible designed to determine their readiness to ascend to a higher plane of existence. "And now you stand at the same crossroads," the architects declare. "You have passed through the trials of the alternate dimension and unlocked the secrets of the artifact. The choice is yours. Return to your universe, armed with the knowledge you have gained, or stay with us, and learn the true nature of reality." Novak and Zeklor exchange a glance, the weight of the decision heavy upon them. To stay would be to embrace a level of understanding beyond their wildest dreams. But to leave... We have to go back, Novak says at last. Our people, our civilizations, they need us. We can't abandon them, not now. Zekler nods, his resolve matching Novak's own. Our place is with them, guiding them towards a better future. The architects incline their heads, a gesture of respect and understanding. Very well, but know this. Your universe stands on the precipice of a great darkness. A threat beyond your understanding, born in the very void between dimensions. They raise their appendages, energy coalescing around Novak and Zeklor. We give you a portion of our power to aid you in the trials to come. May it light your way in the darkness. Power surges through Novak and Zekler, a rush of energy that threatens to overwhelm their very being. They feel themselves changing, evolving, their understanding of the cosmos deepening with each passing moment. As the energy fades, they find themselves back in the alternate dimension. The artifact now dark and dormant. Their Corv allies look at them with awe and trepidation, sensing the change that has come over them. We know the way back, Novak says, his voice thrumming with newfound power. And we know what we have to do. With a gesture, he tears open a rift in the fabric of the dimension, a portal back to their own reality. They step through, ready to face whatever the future may hold. But even as they emerge into the familiar stars of their own galaxy, the architect's warning echoes in their minds. The void, a threat beyond imagination, looms on the horizon, and they, with their newfound powers and understanding, may be the only ones who can stand against it. As the Galactic Council convenes in an emergency session, Captain Novak and Captain Zeklor stride into the chamber, their faces grim. The assembled representatives fall silent as the two heroes take the stage, the weight of their newfound knowledge heavy upon their shoulders. Members of the Council, Novak begins, his voice resonating through the cavernous hall. We come before you today with grave tidings. During our mission in the alternate dimension, we encountered a threat unlike any we have faced before. A malevolent entity known as the Void, which seeks to consume all life in our galaxy. Murmurs of disbelief and concern ripple through the gathered representatives. Zeklor steps forward, his holographic projector illuminating the darkened chamber. We understand your skepticism, he says, but the evidence cannot be ignored. The projector flares to life, displaying images of entire worlds consumed by an inky blackness, their populations vanished without a trace. Ships and stations drift lifeless in the void, their crews driven mad by unspeakable horrors. As the council members watch in growing horror, Dr. Nakamura and Dr. Zortak hurry to the stage, their faces lined with worry. Our research has confirmed the captain's findings, Nakamura says, his voice strained. The Void is not a single entity, but a hive mind composed of countless interdimensional creatures that feed on the energy of living beings. Zortak nods, his fingers flying over a holographic console. We have been working to develop ways to detect and neutralize the Void, but time is running out. We must act now if we hope to save our galaxy. General Wilson and Emperor Zardoz exchange a grim look, then stand to address the council. We have already begun fortifying our defenses and preparing our armies for the inevitable confrontation, Wilson says, his voice steady and resolute. But we cannot face this threat alone. We must stand together as one united front if we hope to prevail. As the council members nod in agreement, Zardoz steps forward, his regal bearing commanding attention. We have established a network of early warning systems and developed new weapons specifically designed to combat the Void's interdimensional nature. But even with these measures, the battle ahead will be unlike any we have fought before. Novak and Zekler exchange a glance, the architect granted power thrumming through their veins. We have seen the devastation the Void can wreak firsthand, Novak says, his voice heavy with the weight of memory. Entire planets consumed, their populations vanished without a trace. Ships and stations attacked by swarms of Void creatures, their crews driven mad by eldritch horrors. Zeklor nods, his eyes haunted. We have used our newfound abilities to rescue survivors and gather intelligence on the Void's movements, and what we have discovered is chilling. The Void is drawn to the very energy that sustains life in our galaxy, and it will not stop until it has consumed everything in its path. As the council members murmur in growing fear and desperation, Novak raises his voice above the din. But there is still hope. If we can strike at the heart of the Void, using every weapon and resource at our disposal, we may yet be able to save our galaxy from annihilation. The chamber falls silent, the weight of the decision hanging heavy in the air. Then slowly, one by one, the representatives of the council races stand, their faces set with grim determination. "We stand with you, Captain Novak. Captain Zeklor," the Queltak ambassador says, his voice ringing with conviction. "The Void threatens us all, and we will not let it consume our galaxy without a fight." As the council chamber erupts in a chorus of agreement, General Wilson and Emperor Zardoz begin issuing orders, their voices steady and commanding. The combined fleets of the council races will gather at a designated rallying point, ready to launch a coordinated assault on the heart of the Void. As Novak and Zeklor make their way to the hangar bay, their steps heavy with the weight of the task ahead, they pause to exchange a final glance. "This is it," Novak says, his voice barely above a whisper. "The fate of the galaxy rests on our shoulders." Zeklor nods, his eyes blazing with determination. "Then let us not fail them. For the sake of all the lives counting on us, we must succeed." With a final clasp of hands, the two heroes board their waiting ships, ready to lead the charge against the greatest threat the galaxy has ever faced. Zephyr's voice rises with a mix of awe and sorrow as he describes the final cataclysmic battle against the Void. The combined fleets of the Galactic Council, a dazzling array of ships from a dozen different worlds, hurtle through the depths of space, their hulls glinting in the starlight. At the head of the armada, the Starfire, Novak and Zeklor's flagship, blazes a trail towards the heart of the anomaly. As they approach the swirling vortex of darkness, the Void's eldritch minions swarm forth to meet them, a writhing mass of twisted flesh and alien geometries. The battle is joined, the silence of the Void shattered by the thunder of 1,000 weapons. Novak, on the Starfire's bridge, his eyes glowing with the power of the architects, raises his hands. Zephyr narrates, his voice trembling with emotion. Space itself ripples and warps around him, the very fabric of reality bending to his will. Beside him, Zeklor wields the primal forces of time, aging the Void creatures to dust or reversing their existence entirely. The historian's audience watches in rapt attention as the holographic display shows the Galactic Council fleet tearing into the Void's ranks, their weapons blazing with the fury of 1,000 suns. But for every abomination they destroy, a dozen more take its place, an endless tide of horror pouring from the depths of the anomaly. "Ships begin to fall," Zephyr says, his voice heavy with grief. Brave crews consumed by the Void's hunger, their screams echoing across the comm channels. But still, the fleet pushes on, their resolve unbreakable in the face of annihilation. The scene shifts to the Starfire's engineering deck, where Dr. Nakamura and Dr. Zortak labor over their ultimate weapon, a massive energy cannon designed to destabilize the Void's quantum structure. They work with a fevered intensity, their hands flying over the controls as they make their final adjustments. "Reroute power from the main drive," Nakamura shouts over the din of battle. "We need every erg of energy for the cannon." Zortak nods, his blue skin slick with sweat. Capacitors at maximum charge. Firing sequence initiated. With a blinding flash of light and a roar that shakes the very hull of the ship, the cannon fires a lance of pure incandescent energy stabbing into the heart of the Void. For a moment, the anomaly seems to shudder and contract, its eldritch minions screeching in agony as they are torn apart by the conflicting energies. "It's working," Novak cries, his voice ragged with exhaustion. "The Void is collapsing." But even as the words leave his lips, a wave of psychic feedback slams into him and Zeklor, driving them to their knees. They clutch their heads, their minds assaulted by a malevolent intelligence vast beyond comprehension. No, Zeklor whispers, his eyes wide with horror. It's inside us, the void. It's using us as a conduit. Novak staggers to his feet, his face a mask of grim determination. We can't let it win. We have to end this now. The two heroes exchange a look, a lifetime of friendship and shared struggle passing between them in an instant. They know what they must do. Together, they reach out with their architect-granted powers, tearing open a shimmering portal in the fabric of space-time. Beyond it lies a distant, uninhabited reality, a realm of endless void far from the worlds they have sworn to protect. Go! Novak roars to the fleet, his voice carried across the comm channels by the force of his will. We'll hold it back, buy you the time you need to escape. As the Galactic Council ships disengage and flee, Novak and Zeklor hurl themselves into the portal. The void, surging hungrily in their wake. They tumble through an infinite cascade of alternate realities, locked in a desperate struggle with the darkness that threatens to consume them. With a final titanic effort of will, the two heroes release their hold on the portal, sealing it behind them. Zephyr narrates, his voice thick with emotion. The void, cut off from its source, begins to dissipate, its power spent in the pursuit of its quarry. In the stunned aftermath of the battle, the Galactic Council fleet limps back to the safety of their home worlds, their ships battered and their crews haunted by the horrors they have witnessed. They gather in the grand chambers of Concordia, the weight of their victory heavy upon their shoulders. The war was won, Zephyr says, his ancient eyes distant. But the cost was incalculable. Novak, Zeklor, and countless other brave souls sacrificed on the altar of our survival. The council members bow their heads in a moment of silent remembrance, the gravity of their loss sinking in. Then, slowly, they begin to speak, their voices low at first, then growing in strength and conviction. And we cannot let their sacrifice be in vain, General Wilson says, his scarred face lit by the determination in his eyes. We must honor their memory by building a galaxy worthy of their courage. Emperor Zardoz nods, his regal bearing tempered by the weight of his grief. We will forge a new order, one based on the ideals they fought and died for. Cooperation, understanding, vigilance against the dangers that lurk in the shadows. As the council debates and plans, Zephyr's gaze is drawn to the stars visible through the chamber's vast windows, the infinite expanse of the galaxy stretching out before him. If you finish this story, please subscribe and like the video, then leave a comment that says, "I liked the story," and I will heart every single one of them. It really helps me. Thank you for your time.